These files were never meant to be public, but someone reopened them. This is the Dark Bureau. A bridge is never just stone and steel rising across water or dust. It is a monument to a nation's aspirations and contradictions, a signature of power inscribed onto the land with the promise of moving people from one place to another. But in Nigeria, bridges like highways, schools and health centres bear an invisible weight. Each truss and pylon echoes with stories of vast sums dispatched from the public treasury, only for those ambitions to dissolve into decay before the concrete sets. The story rarely matches the spectacle. Press releases trumpet grand infrastructure schemes, politicians strike ceremonial poses at sod-turning ceremonies, and news cameras pan across architectural renderings gleaming with potential. On the ground, evidence too often tells a different story. Cracked spans, unused equipment rusting beneath tarpaulins, and communities waiting, sometimes for decades, for a project that exists mostly in records and recollections. Within every unfinished bridge or crumbling new road lies a window into the machinery of corruption, a machinery so deeply embedded in public procurement that it shapes not just projects, but the state itself. The apparatus starts at the top, in government ministries, national agencies, and state parastatals, where tenders for public works are announced, supposedly vetted, and sent on their journey through layers of approval. Yet from the first step, the system is quietly repurposed. Tenders are tailored for a select roster of companies, many of which have changed names, but not owners. Their founders long practiced in the art of reapplying with a fresh identity every fiscal year. Documentation may appear meticulous, but it masks a choreography of influence, pre-arranged decisions hidden behind committee doors, fogged by coded conversation, and credible deniability. Official rosters shuffle, yet the actors remain unchanged, contracts circulating in private, invisible circles that outsiders rarely access. Despite reforms, repeated measures, oversight agencies, new boards, digital submission portals are easily absorbed, with procurement veterans moving seamlessly into the next institution, perpetuating the same playbook. Infrastructure failures provide the public's only visible cues. Highway overpasses fracture less than a year after ribbon cuttings. Water system upgrades run dry even as funding completion certificates are filed. Behind these debacles are not isolated acts of theft, but concerted, enduring collaboration. Local councils, ministry officials, project managers, and select contractors each take a role, forming a clandestine choreography with clear rules and codes. Corruption at this scale is structural, maintained by mutual need and routine. And yet, the system is dynamic. Alliances shift when pressure mounts, with old networks collapsing and fragments recombining into new permutations that exploit regulatory loopholes. Though each actor is replaceable, the structure persists, self-preserving and adaptive. The root of the problem lies in the process itself. Public tenders, meant to secure transparency and fairness, are weaponised. Documents are drafted to match predetermined winners. Oversight bodies sometimes function as mere rubber stamps, unable or unwilling to scrutinise complex, jargon-laden files, even as contracts are divided or extended, and budgets inflated with addenda. The path of public money rarely leads to tangible outcomes. Audits carried out at the behest of international watchdogs or under mounting domestic complaints frequently scratch only the surface. They unearth irregularities, but systemic secrecy and overlapping legal protections shield those most responsible. The same handful of firms wins contracts across regions and sectors. Cross-referencing award records reveals the hidden pattern: name changes, asset reallocation, new entities registered to relatives or proxies, and rebranding manoeuvres, all designed to circumvent blacklists or eligibility rules. Tracing the flow of billions allocated for infrastructure exposes networks far beyond civil service. As independent investigators, journalists and auditors probe deeper, they follow trails of indirect wire transfers, consultancy invoices, padded delivery claims, and mysterious subcontracts. Forensic analyses reveal payment chains split and rerouted through shell companies, entities that exist only for opacity, leaving little but a residue in paper trails. These shell firms often serve no purpose other than to disguise true recipients and dissipate responsibility, masking the fact that much of the money evaporates long before a single brick is laid. The legal landscape, riddled with ambiguities and deliberate technicalities, makes it even more difficult to break the cycle. Regulatory bodies, pressured to show results, oscillate between genuine action and performative investigations. Meanwhile, truly independent audits are rare, and when findings do surface, they are sometimes quietly ignored or buried under bureaucratic reviews. At the heart of each procurement network lies not just greed, but a shared sense of mutual vulnerability and transactional loyalty. Entry into these circles is tightly controlled. Access is governed by informal referrals, political sponsorship, and coded endorsements. The notion that access is based on merit or technical skill is a myth. Insiders are cultivated through loyalty and a willingness to participate in risk sharing. Every new entrant, whether an official or contractor, faces the same stark choice: cooperate, maintain silence, or risk expulsion and exposure. Even as reforms are announced and enforcement agencies restructured, network participants morph their methods, adopting new digital tools for hiding transactions or finding alternative intermediaries. Countermeasures such as digitising procurement or introducing independent ombudsman offices often fall behind the innovation curve of those seeking to circumvent the rules. The system feeds off ambiguity, and ambiguous rules provide ample cover for those willing to operate in the shadows. Money drives the schemer, but power keeps it alive. Budget allocations for projects, often considered a sign of federal largesse and development promise, are routinely overestimated at the outset. This provides cover for multi-layered deductions and side payments. The sum allotted for labour and material delivery is sliced down to a fraction by the time it filters through third or fourth level subcontractors. Official expenditures may indicate that projects are fulfilled, but the observable infrastructure tells a starker truth. Hollow shells of bridges, hospitals with empty wards, schools never occupied by children. The misalignment of paper promises and physical reality persists, in part because it is easier to fabricate documentation than to build functional works. Change orders, extension certificates, and reports of unforeseen complications all serve to rationalise delays or shifts in budget, while actual oversight is paralysed by the complexity of the orchestrated deception. Internally, control oscillates, not with formal titles, but by who wields influence over procurement cycles and the power to suppress inconvenient audits. Officials who broker lucrative contracts or who control regulatory agencies emerge as local kingpins, regardless of their nominal rank. Impunity is traded for complicity, a delicate balance undergirded by the knowledge that exposure would imperil not just individuals, but entire networks. When threats emerge, such as investigative leaks or mounting public protest, loyalties shift rapidly, old alliances fracture, and new arrangements crystallise elsewhere. The landscape is dynamic. New anti-graft commissions are established, but ingrained actors quickly burrow into their administrative structures, stifling progress. The cycle of adaptation is relentless, with external shocks such as currency crashes, international funding cuts, or damaging media investigations serving as catalysts for reconfiguration rather than collapse. Yet cracks in this architecture are inevitable. The cycle of extraction remains vulnerable to exposure. Investigative journalists, independent auditors, and non-profit civil society groups have become crucial actors in prying open the system. Operating inside and outside Nigeria, these watchdogs gather leaked documents, conduct undercover interviews, and assemble payment data from both official and shadow sources. Each new discovery, whether in the form of an incriminating voice recording or a leaked audit file, widens the fissures in the machinery. For every documentary aired or headline splashed across front pages, public outrage grows. Whistleblowers, often insiders aware of the risks, step forward, sometimes anonymously, providing rare glimpses of the inner workings from procurement boardrooms to project sites. The challenge lies not only in gathering proof, but in protecting sources and maintaining pressure as powerful interests mobilise to suppress revelations. The institutional response is mixed, frequently reactive, rather than preventative. Major exposés attract the notice of donor agencies, international watchdogs, and financial partners. Aid is suspended, funding streams placed on hold pending proof of reform. Occasionally, unprecedented investigations ensue, spurring emergency audits, high-level resignations, and legal battles. Ministries are compelled to reassess abandoned schemes, sometimes cancelling projects outright or fast-tracking corrective work amid heightened oversight. In Parliament, hearings grow contentious, with opposition members demanding accountability, while embattled officials scramble to shield themselves with procedural defences. For weeks or months, headlines and investigative reports dominate national consciousness, prompting short-lived transparency blitzes and waves of regulatory reform. Under the surface, however, networks anticipate outcomes, recalibrating their strategies and identifying where scrutiny is likely to fade, so business as usual can resume. Not all exposure leads to tangible change. Without persistent enforcement, new loopholes are found, and the cycle threatens to repeat itself with greater sophistication. The consequences cascade far outside government corridors. Communities slated to receive new infrastructure often reap only the broken remnants of projects, if anything at all. Children walk past unfinished schools, and market traders trudge along rutted roads marked each year as completed in the official budget. The cumulative effect is corrosive. Public trust in government withers as communities internalise the futility of political promises. Economic growth stalls. Private investors, wary of the risks, demand costly guarantees before agreeing to participate in development. Internationally, Nigeria's credibility suffers. Every withdrawn grant or cancelled loan reverberates through the region, reinforcing perceptions of endemic impunity. The social contract, once premised on the state's promise to provide, is slowly eroded and cynicism takes root. Underneath, another generation grows accustomed to improvisation and survival within systems they know to be rigged, and the cycle appears intractable. Still, signs of resistance harden alongside evidence of consequence. In the face of persistent scrutiny, some procurement networks crumble altogether, their key members tried in courtrooms and abandoned by erstwhile protectors. Spectacular trials, though rare, galvanise civil society, encouraging more Nigerians to demand public accountability. Legal barriers, including procurement loopholes, are tightened or closed, sometimes with international partners supporting new auditing technology or compliance training. As younger, reform-minded officials navigate the bureaucracy, pockets of integrity begin to emerge, gradually reforming the procurement apparatus from within. While the process is uneven, technology and open access audits provide new leverage for transparency movements, gradually improving the odds of root-level exposure. Yet every triumph is fragile. Networks adapt, forming new brokerages, and the contest between transparency and hidden interests persists with dramatic stakes. Ultimately, breaking the cycle requires a convergence of exposure and consequence. Civic engagement, systematic enforcement, and continuous investigative work must intersect to prevent backsliding. The architecture of corruption is neither accidental nor immutable. With pressure from below, institutional alignment at the top, and international partnership, the possibility of genuine reform remains alive. Nigeria's infrastructure future and the renewal of trust in its democracy hinges on sustaining this momentum. Whether the architecture of corruption will finally be dismantled or simply replaced by a new variant is the challenge ahead. The unfinished bridge is not just a symbol of what was lost, but a focal point for reclaiming what is still possible.